Okay, we've logged into one of the FarmShare corn machines using either your Windows or Mac notebook. And the first thing I want to go over is what you're seeing at this point. So the first thing you'll see is here, Stanford University Research Computing FarmShare. And in Linux speak, this is called the message of the day. So this is where the system administrators put a description of the machine, any current news, etc. So you may want to take a quick glance at this to see if there's anything applicable to you. At the bottom of the screen is what's called the Linux shell prompt. And the first thing I want to point out is that your Linux shell prompt may look significantly different than mine. Pay attention particular into whether it ends with a $ or a greater than symbol. So in the recent past, they've changed the default Linux shell, and I've included a bit of information in the link outside the video of how you can get your Linux shell to look like mine, which is what it will look like for new accounts. If you have an older account created maybe years ago when you first started your Stanford career, it may look different, and for consistency, you may want to have yours updated to the current standard. And now, just to talk about the anatomy of what we're looking at in terms of the Linux shell prompt, the first part here, PLEGRESL, is my SUNET ID, so it's showing me my user ID, the @ symbol, and then corn01. So corn01 is the name of the machine we're logged into. And then a few other symbols here, and the important thing is that it ends with a $, and after the $, is where I can go ahead and enter commands. So for example, if I wanted to confirm which shell I was using and potentially have that changed to be consistent with mine, you will see that if I do echo $shell, which is a way of finding out which shell you're running, it's the bash shell. Yours may say TCSH, which is the older shell. You may want to have it changed to bash to be consistent with mine. Okay, so I just want to briefly explain why when we log into corn.stanford.edu, we saw from our Linux shell prompt that we're not actually logged into that machine. We're logged into corn and a number. So there's actually 40 machines as part of the corn systems. And what happens when you log into corn.stanford.edu, it looks at the load on all of those 40 machines and sends you to a machine that is not overloaded with other things, so that you can log in and be able to do things, run your code quickly, etc. So for example, in my case, I was logged into corn01, but you might be logged into corn17 or corn28. And each time you log in, you may be sent to a different machine because of this behavior. Now, you may be wondering, if I log into corn27 today and create some files, and then tomorrow I log back into corn38, because that's the machine I get sent to, where are my files that I created on the other machine? Well, fortunately, all of these machines are linked together, and your files are actually on a network file system, specifically one called Andrew File System, or AFS. And that means that when you create files, they aren't actually created on corn 12 or corn 14 or whichever machine you're logged into. They're actually stored on back-end network file system servers, and it doesn't matter which machine you log into, you always have the same access to all of the files that you've created within your account. Okay, so now that we understand how the FarmShare corn machines interact with and direct you to a specific machine based on the load, we'll come back to the Linux shell prompt here, and we'll look at a couple commands. Whom can always be used to confirm the user ID that you've used to log into the machine. The nice thing about the FarmShare prompt is they include that as part of the prompt, but you can also run it as a separate command. And similarly with the host name, if you wanted to confirm which machine you were logged into specifically, you could get that with the hostname command. Now, what we want to do as a kind of prerequisite to make sure that we have a consistent set of files and directories to interact with, we're going to download a specific set of files that go along with these videos. And we're going to use the wget command, which is a way of using a web link that normally you would download with a web browser, but we're going to do that with the command line here. And I've included this link as a clickable link next to the video, so you can probably just copy and paste. But we're going to retrieve this file, and this is in the Linux or Unix world called a compressed or zipped tar file. It's kind of analogous to a zip file on Windows, and we're going to use the tar command to go ahead and extract out all the individual files and directories from this zipped tar file. And the first thing, just to confirm, we'll learn about this command in more detail in a little bit, but ls allows us to list files and directories. So you should see here a jolt linux intro.tar.gz. So this is showing that we've downloaded this file, and then over here jolt is actually a directory which was extracted out of this single file that we just downloaded. So just confirm that you've downloaded this file and extracted the contents out before you proceed on. And one final thing before we get started, at any point, if you want to log out of this machine and go off and do other things, you have several choices. The most common one is probably log out. And you'll see that the connection was closed. You can also use the exit command, or if you are so inclined, Control-D on most systems will also log you out of the system.